Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
Al Capone was a very famous man. He was known as a gangster. He lived a long time ago in America. This was in the early 20th century. Many people knew his name. They talked about him often. Some people said he was a very bad man. They said he did many bad things and was a gangster. Gangsters are people who break the law. They do crimes. Al Capone was the head of a large group of people who did crimes. This group made a lot of money from things that were against the law. Other people thought Al Capone was not just bad. They saw him in a different way. They said he also did some helpful things. Sometimes he gave money to people who were poor. He helped people who had trouble. He helped people find work in hard times. So some people saw him as a man who helped others. They did not see only the bad parts. His full name was Alphonse Capone. He was born in the United States in the year 1899. Newspapers wrote many stories about Al Capone. He became well known in big cities like New York and Chicago. The newspapers wrote a lot about his life and what he did. They wrote exciting stories about his crimes and the people he knew. These stories made Al Capone seem very big and important. He became very famous because of the newspapers. They gave him nicknames. They described his face because he had scars. He became a very well-known person across America. But the stories in the newspapers were not always true. Sometimes they were wrong about the things he did. Sometimes they told different things about the same event. The newspapers liked to make their stories exciting. They did not always check if everything was correct. This made Al Capone seem like a bigger character than he was. This made him a legend for some people. Many people today know Al Capone from these old newspaper stories or from movies. The movies are often based on the stories from the newspapers. These stories and movies do not always show the real man. They show a picture of him that was not completely true. They show only one side. This book is the story of the real Al Capone. It will tell you about his family and where he came from. His parents came from Italy. He was born in the United States. It will tell you about his early life in New York. It will tell you about the first bad things he did. It will tell you how he moved to Chicago. Chicago was a very busy and sometimes dangerous city then. Many different groups of people lived there. Al Capone became a big boss in Chicago. He made a lot of money from things that were against the law. He fought with other gangsters. The newspapers wrote even more about him then. His fame grew bigger and bigger. This book will tell you about the time Al Capone lived. It was a difficult time in America's history. The country was changing fast. The story of Al Capone is part of American history. It is the story of a real person who lived in real times. It is about the things he did and the people he met. It is about a life that was both praised and called very bad. This is the true story. 2. Young Al in Brooklyn. Al Capone's family came from Naples, a city in Italy. His parents were Gabriel and Teresina Capone. They came to America in 1894 looking for a better life. They moved to New York City. They chose to live in Brooklyn, a large part of New York. Brooklyn was like its own city then. Many people from Italy lived in Brooklyn. They stayed in neighborhoods together. This was important to them, a sense of home. Their first home was in a poor area called Red Hook near the docks and the ocean. It was a small home. The family was not rich. Alphonse Capone was born in Brooklyn in 1899. He was their fourth child, but the first born in America. His father worked as a barber. His mother sometimes did sewing at home to help. People saw them as an honest and quiet family. His father was not a harsh man. He talked to his children instead of hitting them. When Al was 5, he started school. He went to public school PS 7. Later, he went to PS 133. Al did not like school very much. He did not like studying. His grades were not very good. He had trouble in school. He missed school often. He had to repeat the 6th grade. He left school when he was 14 years old. He had a fight with a teacher. Then the school principal hit him. Al left school after that. After leaving school, he spent more time outside. He was on the streets of Brooklyn. He was drawn to the docks where there was a lot happening. He started to join groups of young men on the street. These groups were like small gangs. He got into fights with other boys. He even fought a soldier once. He fought with Irish boys in the neighborhood over a washing tub. This showed he was tough. He lived in a neighborhood where he met Johnny Torrio. His family moved to Garfield Place near Johnny Torrio's office. Johnny Torrio was a man who worked in crime. He was a gangster. He was quiet and smart. He managed different businesses in crime. Johnny Torrio saw young Al Capone in the neighborhood. He gave Al small jobs like running errands. These jobs were a test. Al did the jobs well. He showed he was careful and loyal. Johnny Torrio became like a teacher for Al Capone. He was a very important person in Al's young life. He showed Al how things worked in the world of crime. Johnny Torrio would later move away from Brooklyn. He went to the city of Chicago. Al Capone's early life in Brooklyn, on the streets and in school, helped shape him. Meeting Johnny Torrio was the start of his path into the world of gangsters. 3. First crimes. Al Capone worked for a gangster named Frankie Yale. Frankie Yale had a bar called the Harvard Inn in Coney Island, Brooklyn. It was a place with a bar and a dance floor. Al was about 18 years old. He worked there. One night, Al said something bad about a girl sitting at a table. The girl's brother, Frank Galusio, got very angry. He had a knife and cut Al. Frank Galusio cut Al's face and neck 3 times. This fight gave Al his famous scars. Some people called him Scarface later because of these cuts. After the fight, Al wanted to find Frank Galusio to hurt him, but other gangsters made them stop fighting. Al had to say sorry to Frank. Al started doing worse crimes. He worked for Frankie Yale collecting money from gamblers. One man named Tony Perrotta owed money. Tony Perrotta was in the country illegally. Al went to get the money. Tony Perrotta argued with Al and complained. Al shot Tony Perrotta. Tony Perrotta died. Frankie Yale was not angry Al killed him. Al was becoming a real criminal. Al met a girl named Mee Coughlin. She was Irish and from a middle-class family in Brooklyn. Mee got pregnant. They were married in December 1918. Al was almost 20. Mee had their son, Sonny, before they married. Sonny was named Albert Francis. Johnny Torrio was Sonny's godfather. Sonny had health problems when he was a child. Al wanted a more normal life away from crime. He left Brooklyn with Mee and Sonny. They moved to Baltimore, Maryland. Al got a job as a bookkeeper for a building company. He learned about numbers and business there. The boss, Peter Aiello, liked Al's father, Gabriel, died in November 1920. He was 55 years old. Al came back for the funeral. Johnny Torrio had moved to Chicago. Chicago was a big city with many chances to make money from crime. Johnny Torrio asked Al to come to Chicago to work for him. Johnny Torrio was working for a big crime boss there. Al Capone decided to go to Chicago. He left his job in Baltimore and his normal life behind. 4. Welcome to Chicago. Chicago was a very big city in the middle of America. It was a busy place with many people living and working there. The city was growing fast. But Chicago was also a rough city. There were serious problems with crime and bad people. Many different gangs lived in Chicago at this time. They often fought with each other. It was common to see crime happen in the streets. Also, the police in Chicago were often not good. Sometimes police officers took money from criminals to let them do bad things. This made it hard to stop crime and keep the city safe for everyone. Johnny Torrio was already living in Chicago. He had moved there earlier from New York. He worked for a very big boss in Chicago. This boss's name was Jim Colosimo. Jim Colosimo had control of many bad businesses in the city. These included places where people gambled and places with bad women. Colosimo was a powerful man in Chicago's underworld. Then something very important happened. Jim Colosimo was killed. Someone shot him in his place of business. After Jim Colosimo died, Johnny Torrio became the most important boss. He took over all of Colosimo's businesses. Torrio now had a lot of power. Johnny Torrio knew Al Capone from their time in New York. Torrio needed help in Chicago to run his new big business. He asked Al to come and work for him. Al Capone came to Chicago in 1921. He started working for Johnny Torrio. Al Capone helped Torrio manage his businesses. These businesses made a lot of money from illegal things like gambling and prostitution. Al helped to run different places for Torrio. He managed bars where people could buy illegal drinks. He also helped with other bad businesses, sometimes called bad houses or brothels. One place that Al Capone helped to manage was very important to Torrio. It was called the Four Deuces. The address was 2222 South Wabash Avenue. This building was like the main office for Johnny Torrio's crime work. On the first floor, there was a bar or saloon. People could buy illegal alcohol there, like whiskey and beer. On the floors above the bar, there were offices where Torrio did his business. There were also rooms for gambling where people played cards and other games for money, and there were rooms for bad women. Al Capone worked at the Four Deuces. He helped Torrio manage all these different parts of the business. This was how Al Capone started his life in Chicago crime. The city was big and busy and sometimes dangerous, but it had many chances for a man like Al. He worked hard for Torrio and began to learn how the big crime business worked in Chicago. He was ready to do important jobs for the new boss, and soon his life in Chicago would become even bigger. 5. The new boss. Johnny Torrio was the head of the big gang in Chicago. His gang did many businesses like selling beer and running gambling places. One day, some bad men shot Torrio. He was shot many times and was hurt very badly. He had to go to the hospital. After he was better, Torrio thought about his life. Being the big boss was too dangerous now. He decided to leave Chicago. He wanted a quiet life away from the city. He went to live in Italy for a while. Torrio needed someone to take his place. He chose Al Capone. Al was younger than Torrio, but he was strong and smart. Torrio knew Al could run the gang's businesses well. So Johnny Torrio left Chicago. Al Capone became the new big boss of the Chicago gang. This gave Al much power in the city. Al Capone had his family with him in Chicago. They lived in a house. As the new boss, Al needed a safe place for business meetings. He often stayed at the Metropole Hotel in Chicago. He used a big suite of rooms there for his work. Al wanted to make his power even bigger. He wanted to control the town of Cicero, which was near Chicago. Cicero was important because it had many places that sold illegal alcohol and offered gambling. Al sent his men to Cicero to take control. His brother Frank Capone helped him a lot in Cicero. Frank worked to make sure Al's gang controlled everything there. Frank helped with town elections to put friendly people in charge, but the work in Cicero was very dangerous. There were often fights with other gangs or with the police. On April 1, 1924, something very sad happened during a fight. Frank Capone was in Cicero. The police shot him. Frank Capone was killed by the police. This was a very difficult time for Al Capone and his family. Later that same year in May, Al Capone killed a man himself. The man was named Joe Howard. Joe Howard was a small criminal in Chicago. Al and Joe Howard had a fight in a bar. Al shot Joe Howard. Joe Howard died. Al Capone was now known for killing people with his own hands. Al Capone was the new boss in Chicago. He had more power than ever before. He controlled Chicago and the town of Cicero, but his life was still very dangerous and full of problems and sadness. 6. Gang wars. Al Capone became the main leader of a large gang in Chicago. He had problems with other gangs. These problems were about selling illegal alcohol, especially beer. This was during a time called Prohibition, when selling alcohol was against the law. But many people still wanted to buy it, so gangs made a lot of money. Gangs fought to control parts of the city to sell their beer. One big rival for Capone was a man named Dion O'Banion. Dion O'Banion led a different gang on the north side of Chicago. At one time, Capone's gang and O'Banion's gang worked together sometimes, but they had arguments about who could sell where. Dion O'Banion also did something bad to Johnny Torrio, who was Capone's friend and former boss. Because of this, Johnny Torrio had trouble with the police. Later, Dion O'Banion was killed in his flower shop. Men from Capone's gang did this. Dion O'Banion had friends who were very angry after he was killed. They wanted revenge on Al Capone. These friends, like a man named Jaime Weiss and another named Bugs Morin, tried to kill Capone many times. They shot at Capone and his car. Capone had to be very careful. He needed bodyguards to stay safe. The fighting between these gangs became worse and more dangerous. The gangs started using new types of guns. One new gun was called a machine gun. Machine guns could shoot many bullets very fast, like 50 or more bullets in just a few seconds. This made the gang fights much deadlier. A very terrible event happened on one day. It was Thursday, February 14, 1929. This day is known as St. Valentine's Day. In a garage on the north side of Chicago, 7 men were killed. These men worked with the Morin gang. The men who did the killing dressed in clothes that looked like police uniforms. They made the 7 men stand in a line against a wall in the garage. Then they used machine guns to shoot them. It was a very shocking and bloody crime. Many people in Chicago heard about this killing. News about the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, as it was called, was in all the newspapers. People knew about the fighting between Capone's gang and the Morin gang. Because of the terrible way the men were killed and the history of the gang war, many people thought Al Capone was the man who planned this killing. They believed he wanted to hurt the Morin gang badly to stop the fighting over beer selling. 7. The police get Capone. The police tried many times to prove Al Capone was a murderer, but they could not find enough proof. Capone was careful. He had many men to protect him. So the government decided to try a different way to catch him. They looked at Capone's money. Capone made a lot of money. He made millions from his businesses. These businesses sold illegal alcohol and ran gambling houses, but Capone did not pay taxes on this money to the government. Government agents began working. They were special agents. Their job was to find proof of Capone's earnings. It was hard because Capone did not use banks or keep clear records. He used other people to hide money, but the agents kept looking for proof of his income. Capone was becoming very famous across America. Newspapers wrote many stories. The government called him public enemy number 1. This name meant many people saw him as the most dangerous criminal. His reputation grew. In May of 1929, Capone went to a large meeting. It was in Atlantic City, a city near the ocean. Many important gangsters from around the country were at this meeting. They met to talk about their illegal businesses and make agreements. After this meeting, Capone was in the city of Philadelphia. Police saw him there. He had a gun. It was against the law in Philadelphia to carry a gun without permission. The police arrested him for this reason. He went to prison for a short time for the gun charge, but catching Capone for the gun was not the main goal. The government still wanted to get him for not paying taxes. The special agents kept gathering evidence. They found more papers and found people who knew about Capone's money. They built a case against him for not paying taxes on his large earnings. The government planned a big trial. Al Capone would have to go to court. He would answer for not paying his taxes. This was a new step for the government. It was a different way to use the law to fight big criminals who seemed above the law. People across the nation watched to see what the result would be. It was a very important case for America. 8. The final years, Al Capone was found guilty. He did not pay taxes on his money. Because of this, he was sent to prison. The judge said he must stay for 11 years. First, he was in a prison in Atlanta. Later, he went to a prison called Alcatraz. Alcatraz was a very difficult place. It was hard to live there. Mr. Capone became very sick in prison. His body was not strong. His mind also started to work badly. He was not thinking clearly. He was let out of prison early because he was so sick. He did not finish his 11 years. After prison, Al Capone went to live in the state of Florida. He lived there quietly with his wife and his son. He did not do his old work. He stayed at home. He was not a gangster anymore. Al Capone died in the year 1947. He was 48 years old when he died. His story shows a difficult time in America many years ago. What do you think about Al Capone's life?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.